At least 13 children and 12 adults are reported drowned after a boat carrying migrants to Greece sank off the west coast of Turkey. The Aegean Sea's latest disaster, just hours before crucial EU talks with Ankara, highlights the urgency of solving a crisis spiralling increasingly out of control. Separately, 13 people of Pakistani and Afghan origin were rescued from a sinking inflatable boat off the Greek island of Kos. Over 320 Greece-bound migrants have drowned this year alone, according to the International Organization for Migration. But despite the dangers, those seeking asylum, many from Syria, Iraq and Afghanistan, keep coming. Here, hundreds arrive on the island of Lesbos after being rescued by the Greek Coast Guard. So far this year, some 135,000 migrants have reached Europe's shores.
European Union leaders are hoping Turkey will step up to the mark at today's summit in Brussels and hold back migrants trying to get to Europe. The talks will include formalising the closure of the Balkans route out of Greece while pledging to help Athens. They'll also be seeking assurances that Turkey will, with NATO naval backup, bar the sea to people smugglers. 1 million people reached Europe through illegal routes in 2015, many fleeing economic and political turmoil in the Middle East and North Africa. Most of them came through Turkey, which borders Syria, Iran and Iraq. Ankara is also being asked to take back migrants halted in its waters and those who reached Greek islands but failed to qualify for asylum. But asking favours from a government that only 2 days ago sent in police to seize control of Zaman, Turkey's top-selling opposition newspaper, does not sit well with several EU leaders. They're torn between anger at Ankara's action and fear of derailing Turkish willingness to help with the migrant crisis. President of the European Parliament, Martin Schulz, has declared his intention to raise the issue. Within 48 hours of the paper being taken over by the authorities, Zaman published an edition carrying pro-government articles. Critics have described it now of merely being a propaganda publication. Meanwhile, one cartoonist tweeted his own take on the problem, showing a Turkish journalist and a refugee both trying to get to Europe.
Tension between North and South Korea has flared again, with the North warning of what it calls preemptive nuclear strikes of justice. The new threat to turn the US and South Korea into what Pyongyang calls a sea of flames and ash comes as the two allies begin annual military exercises. Tough new UN sanctions have been imposed on the North after a fourth nuclear test and a long-range rocket launch last month. This Defense Ministry spokesman in the South says North Korea should immediately stop its rash and reckless behavior. If North Korea ignores our warning and makes provocations, our military will firmly and mercilessly respond to it, he says. The US and South Korea insist the exercises are non-provocative training. But the North condemns the use of almost 320,000 soldiers as an act of aggression.
Iranian billionaire Babak Zanjani has been sentenced to death for embezzlement. Justice officials say the 42-year-old has been found guilty of fraud and economic crimes. The verdict can be appealed. Zanjani was arrested in December 2013 on suspicion of withholding billions in oil revenue funneled through his companies. He's always denied the allegations, but did recognize claims he'd been selling millions of barrels of Iranian oil on behalf of the government since 2010. Zanjani's case has been followed internationally due to his prominent role in helping Iran evade oil sanctions. He was sentenced alongside two others who haven't been publicly named. They were convicted of corruption on earth, the most serious offence under Iranian law. All three were ordered to repay the embezzled funds.
Angry demonstrators pelted the Russian embassy in Kiev with eggs and rocks on Sunday. Protesters were calling for the release of a former military pilot and MP who's currently being detained in Moscow. Nadia Savchenko, who was captured by pro-Russian rebels amid the conflict in eastern Ukraine in June 2014, has been accused of complicity in the killing of two Russian journalists. Earlier, around 2,000 supporters gathered in central Kiev. In Ukraine, Savchenko is considered by many as a political prisoner. Her friends and family are calling on the West to intervene. Her sister says Europe and US politicians have to find a common language. I don't know whether it has to be economic pressure or political pressure or just kind words, although we already have had a chance to see that Russia only understands the language of economic pressure or force. Savchenko, who denies any wrongdoing, is facing trial in Moscow, but the court proceedings have been delayed. In response, she is refusing food and drink, and her supporters are concerned that her health will deteriorate. The US Department of State has called for her immediate and unconditional release. If found guilty, Savchenko could face up to 25 years in jail for the deaths of the two Russian journalists. Riot police in Istanbul forcibly broke up a rally of hundreds of women as they marked International Women's Day 2 days early. March the 8th is the official date, but the city's governor banned their rally planned for then, citing security concerns. At least one person was detained in a scuffle with police who were seen firing rubber bullets at the women. And in Warsaw, Polish women's groups also held a rally calling for greater accessibility to abortion. They also called on the state to open more nurseries and preschools, better job security and higher pay for women. One person has been killed and 2 others injured in a shooting at a factory on the outskirts of Sydney. The area has been cordoned off and negotiators and a tactical response team are at the scene. The gunman is thought to be in possession of an automatic rifle. Police do not believe the incident is extremism related. The renowned Austrian conductor Nicolaus Harnoncourt has died aged 86. Known to millions from performances including the New Year's concert by the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra, he was also referred to as the Pope of the Baroque music revival and became one of the most recorded early music conductors.
Thank you for your love, and thank you for just being you.
Her husband adored her, and warm tributes from far and wide have poured in at the news that one of the United States' most influential First Ladies, Nancy Reagan, has died of heart failure at home in Los Angeles at the age of 94. In more than half a century of marriage, she followed Ronald Reagan from Hollywood to the White House and beyond, mingling with global leaders during her Republican husband's presidency from 1981 to 1989 and caring for him as he battled Alzheimer's. The Obama's tribute praised her work in fighting the disease. She'll be laid to rest at the Reagan Presidential Library in California next to her husband, who died in 2004.